The year is 2008. Banks are collapsing. People are crying outside glass buildings. The world's biggest economies are crumbling like sandcastles in a rising tide. Behind closed doors, world leaders are panicking. Trillions vanish in a blink. Trust, the invisible glue holding money together, is breaking. And then, someone or something appears online. No one knows who they are. They leave a message. Just a few lines of code. They call it Bitcoin. But to understand why this anonymous figure created a whole new kind of money, we have to go way back. Back before banks, before paper, before coins. To the beginning of it all. Because money, the stuff we spend our lives chasing, didn't start in vaults or apps. It started with a shell.
A 1,000 years ago, on the warm coasts of Asia and Africa, people began to notice something odd. Some seashells, small, smooth, bright cowries, were showing up everywhere. Not in the ocean, but in the markets. People were giving them away in exchange for food, for cloth, for tools. Why? Because barter was broken. You couldn't always find someone who wanted what you had. You might trade a basket of rice for a goat, but what if they had no use for rice? So people needed something, anything, that everyone would agree had value. Something rare, portable, and impossible to fake. That's when the cowrie shell became more than decoration. It became trust you could hold in your hand. For centuries, they passed from palm to palm, small shells moving empires. But then came a new idea, one that would make the shell seem like a toy. The fire burned hot in ancient Lydia, now Western Turkey. There, in the 6th century before Christ, people weren't just trading, they were melting metal. And for the first time, they pressed it into circles, coins. Not just shiny trinkets, but stamped with faces, kings, gods, rulers. Each coin had real weight. You could feel its worth. Gold, silver, bronze. You could even bite it just to make sure it was real, and many did. People trusted coins because they were made of something you couldn't print, something you could measure, melt, and see. They were heavy, yes, but they held power, and power traveled. From Lydia to Rome to the far ends of Asia, coins became the language of trade. But when gold got too heavy to carry, someone came up with a dangerous idea. What if money didn't have to be real?
Imagine this. You walk into a shop in ancient China, but instead of handing over metal, you pass a slip of paper. The shopkeeper nods, takes the note, and gives you your goods. No coin exchanged, no gold seen. It feels fake. And yet, that piece of paper is worth something. Why? Because it's backed by a promise that somewhere, safely stored, is the real treasure. That's how paper money was born. It started as an IOU, a simple note that said, yes, this person has value. Soon, people realized they didn't need to carry treasure, just the idea of treasure. Faster, lighter, easier to hide in your robe. The only catch, it only works if everyone believes in it. If belief breaks, so does the value. Paper spread like wildfire across China, then across the world. But each note carried a secret fragility, because all it took was doubt, and that paper would turn worthless overnight. Still, it was fast, convenient, scalable, And where there's speed, there's temptation.
By the 18th and 19th centuries, banks weren't just places to store money. They made it. They took your gold, they gave you paper, and they loaned out money they didn't even physically have. How? Because they knew not everyone would come to collect at the same time. It was like throwing a party where you invite 50 people to a 10-seat dinner table, hoping not everyone shows up. This became fiat money, currency backed by trust in governments, not gold. The government said, "This paper is valuable," and people nodded. Why? Because the system worked. Until it didn't. We had created an illusion, a shared fantasy, one that could rise or fall based on confidence alone. And fall it did, more than once. Still, we kept evolving. We built towers for our banks. We guarded our cash in steel vaults. But then, money disappeared. Not physically, just from our hands.
The year was 1950, New York. A man forgets his wallet at dinner. Embarrassed, he has an idea. A card, small, flat, and made of cardboard. You pay later. That night, the credit card was born. Soon, money wasn't in your pocket anymore. It was a number on a screen. You didn't need gold or even paper. You needed trust in a system of invisible numbers. We got apps, QR codes, banking from our phones. We stopped counting coins. We started counting clicks. The entire idea of money became a story we told with numbers. But in 2008, as banks collapsed and the world trembled, that story almost ended. And in the ashes, something new appeared. Not paper, not plastic, code.
An anonymous post, a white paper, a strange name, Satoshi Nakamoto, a new kind of currency, Bitcoin. No bank, no government, no printing, just pure code. It runs on blockchain, a system like a public notebook that writes everything down and can't be erased. It's like a town ledger that everyone sees, but no one controls. This time, trust didn't go to kings or banks. It went to math. Suddenly, thousands of people started believing in digital money that wasn't printed, touched, or managed. Some became millionaires. Others lost everything. And still, the story spreads. But here's the real twist. What if this isn't the end of money? What if it's just the beginning? Because the next version of money might not be coins or code. It might be something you can't even see.